Okay, see why that's not clicking out. Hold on a moment, folks. There we go. All right, off we go. Welcome everybody to this Monday morning. It's a 2-hour CE class, buyers A to Z and buyers leads and converting leads to clients. Just to review those rules one more time, display your full name on the screen, of course, have your video turned on for the entire class, be in attendance with us, and hopefully we'll be able to engage with each other. And as I share 3 key words with you throughout this class, you'll see that when this little icon pops up and the keyword will flash on the screen. So welcome everybody today. See we have a few folk that have already been on these classes before. Welcome you back joining us, and anybody new, we certainly welcome you to be with us for the first time. In Presidio, we have a Raising the Bar series. There are 12 classes, and this is number 3 of the 12. Jennifer Yo, who is our principal broker and owner of Presidio, has said this: doing the right thing in every area of our jobs only makes the industry better as a whole. Staying committed to that helps us all have a strong, resilient, long-lasting career, and will bring more referrals and business to you than you could ever imagine. That's why at Presidio we pledge to raise the bar, and hopefully, whichever brokerage we're representing today, we can also pledge to raise our bar in real estate. And as we learn from each other, hopefully we can get better in this industry and serve people better as we help them in purchase or sale of real estate. You know, I come from England. Here's a quote from Margaret Thatcher. You may remember that one, the first woman Prime Minister in Great Britain. She said, in order to be considered free, countries must also have a deep love of liberty and an abiding respect for the rule of law. And we'll look at that today. We'll look at some of the rules of law within this industry and see if we can just remind ourselves what some of those phrases or words might mean when we look at the buyers A to Z glossary. We'll go through that, and then we'll look a little on the way in which we can probably capture buyers leads and convert them into clients. I will not respond to any of the chat today. Leslie Ann will respond to chat. If you have anything to contribute or share, or any questions or comments or thoughts, please just unmute and literally just chime in. I cannot see everybody. I can see a few images, but because I run full screen, I can't see everybody. So please just literally unmute and chime in. I'd love to hear from you. And it's really good when we can share experiences with one another, because we can remember experiences sometimes easier than we can just information. So we'll look at this glossary. We'll go from A to Z. As Leslie Ann said, we're from England, we would say A to Z. But I've learned over here, it's an A to Z. So there we have it. Let's see what are some of the things we might need to know, particularly as a buyer's agent, but a lot of these refer to listing agents as well. So we'll start off with the A's, and got a couple of those. I like this little visual here. In England, we did have horses, thoroughbred horses. And even though that is not one of our horses, that's not my daughter. I did have a daughter that was about 5 or 6 that would often walk a huge horse like that out into the pasture. And it is total trust. And so when we look at that first item there, which is agents' fiduciary duties, we understand and recognize that, you know, people trust us in this industry to know what we're talking about and to be able to clearly guide them through a process of buying or selling real estate. They rely on our expertise, our confidentiality, and our loyalty to them to help navigate through this process. Another one is the appraisal. So we'll look at these 2 first and see what we can learn. Let's start off with the appraisal, and let me see if I can engage. Remy, how are you doing today? Good to see you. I've not seen you for a while. Hope you're having a great day. Why don't you unmute and tell everybody what the appraisal word means?
An appraisal is a valuation that an independent party, as ordered by a lender, goes into a home and values the property. Measures every room and of course looks at all the aspects of the home, all the features and amenities, and determines a market value based on other homes with similar features and amenities.
Perfect. Thank you, Remy. Tell me, Remy, does this person have any qualifications to do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're licensed just like we are, governed by a licensed group, but they're solely to do with evaluating properties for lending companies. Very good. Thank you, Remy. Let's have a look at those two. And of course, we'll start off with the agent's fiduciary duties, which is an individual who is entrusted with acting on behalf of another individual and making decisions in their best interest. Real estate agent's fiduciary duty is to disclose all material facts and offers and all information to their client with full loyalty and confidentiality. Very important that is, and particularly those of us who are working, as a sole agent. We don't discuss any of our business relationships with our family members, partners, wives, husbands, parents, anybody. We need to keep that totally confidential with us and the clients and those within the industry that we are sharing information. And then, of course, the appraisal, which Remy has just shared with us, created by a certified professional appraiser who is licensed to value properties for money lending organisations to qualify for the loan. We can certainly come up with a CMA, but a CMA is not an appraisal. Lending companies will only work with an authorised appraisal, which comes from a licensed appraiser. Any questions on the A's? Very good. Let's go to the B's, and we'll look at these. There's about 4 of these in here, so we'll just have a look at these and see if we can learn. So we've got the buyer-broker agreement, exclusive and non-exclusive, and we've got the budget, obviously, we'll be looking at that, the balloon payment, and benefits and features of the home. So let me just ask the question, who can tell me what a balloon payment is? That's who we got on my list here. Tristan, how would you like to come in on that one? Have you got an idea what the balloon payment might be?
Oh yeah, a balloon payment is generally the last payment on a loan. It had to be a particular type of loan. I haven't seen one, but I've heard of it in theory, where it's a large payment, a large balloon payment at the end of the loan. Perfect.
Thank you, Tristan. So looking at those 3, of course, we've got the BBA, which we're all familiar with, hopefully, which is the contract with a broker for real estate transaction. We are going to be working with our clients with a budget. We need to understand what we're working with in order to help them. And of course, they're going to work closely with the lender to make sure that your client can qualify for the purchase that we're looking at. That balloon payment, large payments at the end of the loan term, as Tristan just highlighted. When we're looking at benefits and features, make sure we understand the difference between these. In fact, let me ask that question. Does anybody know what the difference between a benefit and a feature of a home? We're trying to sell homes or look at homes to buy. Anybody got any ideas on that? You've all gone silent on me. Come on, I've got to be able to squeeze that out of someone. We've got any car salesmen here? They always know what the difference is between benefits and features. Okay, so if our car salesman, I was selling you a car, I said, this is a great car. One of the wonderful features of this car, it's got leather seats. And let's say, for instance, you never come across leather before, you have no idea what that means. That is of no value to them unless they know what the benefit of leather seats are. So leather seats, obviously, cool seats in the summer, warm seats in the winter. So what might be some benefits and features in a home? Oh, I'm going to have to squeeze someone out. And who can we pick on today? Let's go with Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Do you want to unmute and say hello to everybody?
Good morning.
There you go. How long have you been a realtor for?
Oh, I do it part-time, just probably for about 10 years. Not a little
great.
bit here and there.
Wonderful.
So
tell us.
I'd say a benefit would be, physical things of the home, vaulted ceilings or double wall ovens or high-end appliances or multiple bathrooms. And oh no, excuse me, those are the features. I got it backwards.
Right.
Feature.
Yeah,
and the benefit are with vaulted ceilings, you enjoy a much bigger room, or you have the convenience of having a large family event dinner with double ovens. That would be the benefit.
Perfect. Yeah. So just make sure when you're sharing homes, just understand when you're talking features all the time. Sometimes people may not know what the benefits of those features are, and you can obviously share that with them. All right, very good. Let's go on to the C's. Oh, here we go. So that's our first keyword coming up here. That should flash on the screen any moment. It's balloon. Can you see that? B-A-L-L-O-O-N. Balloon. That'll be your first keyword. I will not mention this keyword again. And if anybody asks for the keyword, you can ask Leslie Ann privately. Please do not share this keyword with anybody through chat. Once it's been shared, we're not allowed to share it again. But if you have a problem or you're just out of tune or not here when the next ones are shown, just talk to Leslie Ann, and as long as you've been on the rest of the class, she better help you. So balloon is the first keyword. Off we go then. Let's go to the C's.
I've got a quick question, Stephen.
Thanks, Rami.
How is Merlin doing?
He's not very big, but he thinks he owns the place, and he's always doing good.
Good.
The guy's got energy that never ends. Never ends. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with him.
For folks who do not know, Merlin is a cute dog that Stephen and Leslie Ann use in their presentations. Just a furry, cute little thing.
Yeah, he's like a little teddy bear. That's what he is.
Yeah,
little poodle. Thanks, Rami. So let's go for CMAs. Let's pull in Liberty. How would you like to chime in on this one? I think you might know what a CMA. Liberty's just joined this industry, so she's learning. And we're all learning, but it's always good to have brand new agents with us. How you doing, Liberty? You good?
Yeah.
You want to talk to us about what CMA is?
Yep. So it's where a realtor pulls similar properties to get a feel for what a house will sell for. So not the actual value like an appraisal, but so that people can consider whether or not they want to sell on the current market.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's not an accurate value assessment, but it is an opinion. It's an estimate. And basically we have some tools where we can produce a fairly good indication of, what the value of a home would be. We've got the community amenities in this little one here as well. We've also got contingencies. You'd like to help me on that? Samantha, would you like to unchime and say hi to everybody? Tell us what maybe a contingency is.
Yeah, honestly, I am so new to all of it.
Oh, brilliant. You're new. How long have you been a realtor for?
I'm actually, I haven't even started yet. I'm brand new.
That's wonderful. That's even more wonderful to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us. So what do you think that word means, contingency?
Honestly, I remember learning it, but I can't even remember.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. Let me bring in someone who can help us. I'm going to bring in Tristan. He's going to help us on the contingencies.
Thanks, Stephen. A contingency would be a condition. Say the sale of this house is contingent on the condition of the seller finding another property to move to.
Perfect.
Does that also include like them needing to sell like their home beforehand?
Yeah.
Does that include? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah. So someone may say, hey, here's my offer. We're all excited to go. And the seller says, wonderful. But then the buyer says, but I've got to sell my home because I can't afford to buy this new home. So yeah, I'm going to be buying your home contingent, as Tristan said, condition on me selling my home. If I can't sell my home, I can't buy your home. So that perfect. Thank you, Samantha. We welcome you to this class. Hopefully, you're in training at the moment. we all know what it's like to train for those exams. So, stay with the course. And some of us have failed before we've passed. So don't get discouraged if you don't get through the first time.
I've already passed that. I'm just new to everything else.
Perfect. You passed the exam. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. That takes some doing. And
Yeah.
I know because I've done it. And coming from England, a lot of the terminology and jargon was very, very different. So it was like learning a new language for me and Leslie Ann. Well, good to have you with us today, Samantha. Please just ask any questions. If you think of a question, you might think it's a silly question, ask it, because there's probably someone else on this class who's probably thinking about it and not having the confidence to ask. So please chime in. Okay, let's have a look at those three then, see how we did. Of course, the CMA comparative market analysis is an estimate of the home's value based on recently sold similar properties in the immediate area. That's what we're trying to do there. Obviously, community amenities includes the parks, the pools, the houses, the trails, the walking bikes, jogging tracks and whatnot that might be available, usually paying for that through an HOA. And of course, contingencies, clauses that define a condition or action that must be met for the real estate contract to become binding, as Tristan told us. Perfect. Let's move on to the Ds. We've got the down payment. I think we all know what that is. Duplex, that's a good one, that is. Who wants to help me out on duplex? Who can tell me what a duplex is? It's not an easy one, this is. Janet, how would you like to say hi to everybody and tell us how long you've been a realtor for?
I've been a realtor for 30 years.
My goodness, you've probably topped a lot of them. 30 years. Well done. Well, yes. You'll definitely know what a duplex is if you can remember.
Yeah, a duplex is a home that is two properties attached, side by side.
Yeah, great, super. Thank you, Janet. Good to have you with us today. You've got a lot of experience and might have to call you in to help us as we go.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, stay with us, Janet.
I will.
Tell us about this dual agency. What do you know about that?
Dual agency. Got me on the spot. It's when the agent's representing two parties, correct?
Okay. Let's have a look at this dual agency because it's a bit different to limited agency. So, yes. And it's easy for some of us to forget some of these terminologies, and that's why we run this class here. So we're going to look at that in a moment. So first of all, down payment, of course, the amount of money we're going to put down on a purchase of a property, often a percentage of the purchase price. It's usually dictated by the lender. They may say you've got to have, 3.5%, you've got to have 20% or whatever it may be if you're going to go for a conventional loan, etc. Duplex, one building that houses two units, as Janet said, sharing a common wall. Units can be arranged either side by side or stacked one on top of the other. Now, the dual agency, agent or broker is representing both buyer and seller, as Janet highlighted for us. So there we have it. Let's move on to the E's. We've got three of these. Escrow. Minette, how would you like to chime in and tell us what escrow means? I've seen Minette on our classes before. I'm sure she won't mind me asking her. Are you okay, Minette? Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. I just had to find the unmute.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
How are you doing today, Minette?
I'm great. How are you?
Perfect. Thanks for coming on this class today.
Of course.
Tell us about what the escrow word means. What does that mean?
Okay, so escrow is when you write the contract, it asks for how much your buyers are going to put, earnest money they're going to put towards the property. And you take that money and it goes into an escrow account, and our brokerage has an escrow account that they hold the funds until closing.
Perfect, yeah.
And the escrow amount, doesn't that go towards the purchase of the property? So it's all included in there.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, that's where they're going to put that that money up front there. Very good. Let's look at earnest money. You covered a little bit of that. We'll go through that in a moment. And then we've got encroachment. Anybody dealt with any encroachments really with properties? Anybody got any stories I'd like to share on the encroachment?
I have, unfortunately.
Perfect. Unfortunately. Tell us, Minette, tell us about the encroachments.
It's tricky because I was helping someone purchase property years ago in Eagle Mountain, and when the property was surveyed, we found out that the neighbor next door had built their driveway over the property line onto my buyer's property.
Oops.
And so it's a little tricky and it takes a lot of time to figure out. It can be costly too. So anyway, yeah, it worked out in the end. I think the buyer or the owners of the property next door compensated my buyer. It's been years, but they compensated them some money for their encroachment. Either that or they would have had to have ripped out their driveway. So.
Yeah, it's a good thing to check the property lines before we start, make sure that we've got those in order. And if there are any sort of, I don't know, it could be trees or buildings or other things that are hanging over a property, that would also be an encroachment. Okay, let's look at those three then. Of course, we've got the escrow that Minette shared with us, special holding account for your property. It could be anything really, tax, home insurance, anything, but in, obviously ours will use that money up front. The earnest money, which of course is a deposit made to the seller, representing good faith to buy the home, and they're going to put that into an escrow account, which can be with brokerages or it can be with a title company, but it's going to be there and it's not going to be released until the contract calls it to be released to whichever party. And then we've got the encroachment, happens when a piece of your neighbour's property crosses the property lines. This could be a fence, tree, part of the building, or any other fixtures located on both pieces of the property. And sometimes we find those property lines are not accurate. And so in Minette's case, they have a driveway that was hanging over the other person's property. So make sure we tidy those up when we're working with clients so that we don't have to deal with them when we get to the end of the transaction. Let's look at the F's. Obviously, finances here. And we've got pre-qualified and pre-approved. I'll be honest with you, when I first came over to the US, I had these the wrong way around, because in England, we would think if you're qualified, you're good to go, but not so. So we often talk about, I need a pre-qual letter or a pre-approval letter. What's the difference in these two, and which ones have more value than the other? Who'd like to answer that question for me? I'll only give you a few seconds.
I will answer that.
Perfect. Thank you, Janet.
Pre-qualified is where the buyers have gone to the lender, provided all of their documentation, and on paper they have pre-qualified by submitting their information. Pre-approved means that the buyer has been to underwriting, the lender has approved the buyer, has done all their background check and finances, and know that they're pre-approved for the property.
Yeah, so if I'm the seller and you're the buyer, you give me a pre-qualified letter. Of what value is that to me as a seller?
Only the fact that you have actually talked to a lender and have made application.
Yeah, and in some cases, Janet, these days you can actually get a pre-qualified by working online. You don't actually even go, need to go and meet with a bank manager or anybody. You can actually do it online. So it's a start, but it really is not solid information that you're going to be able to afford to buy that property, correct?
That's right. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so there we have it. Those two different words you'll come across often, and we really have to pre-approve. If you're representing a buyer, you know, it's a good idea to get a pre-approved letter if you can, because some of these buyers can work with lenders beforehand and they've already, you know, done an in-depth, I guess, inventory of the client's finances, and they're able to supply a pre-approved letter. If you've got that, then share that and use it when you put in an offer. It's going to be much more valuable than a pre-qualified letter. So
in this market, this market, Stephen, it is imperative to put an offer in alongside the pre-approval letter. It is absolutely a requirement. I mean, if you don't do that, the chances of you going under contract on that property are slim to none.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Thanks, Remy. Okay, so there we have pre-qualification estimates supplied by the lender based on a brief overview of the buyer's finance, which may include a credit check and other general questions which can be done over the phone or even online, whereas the pre-approval, a more in-depth process that requires the buyer to supply proof of financial history and stability, including verification of income, employment, assets, and debts. So we're always after that pre-approval. And as Rami said, you know, in this market, you really could do one of these when you're presenting those offers. They're going to be much more valuable. Give you the green check mark there. Let's go for the G's. And I just put in here goals and objectives. So I just like this little image here because these three guys are all involved in what's going on here. They're all invested and they know what they're doing. They're working a plan, okay? And that's how we've got to be when we work with real estate. Also in the G's, you've got the general contractors that we may be involved in, particularly if we are going with a new build. So to best serve your buyer, it's important to understand from the outset what their goals, expectations, objectives are when finding a house. If you can start there, you can usually help them much easier and quicker without spending lots of time showing homes and trying to figure out what they like because they are, you know, just looking at homes. Geography, price, size, features and benefits, all important areas that need to discuss before you start your search. General contractors, of course, construction of a new home, or if you've got a home that needs improvements, you'll be dealing with those. There your G's. Move to the H's, of course, got the HOA, which we all love or not, depending on where we are and what we've got going on. So the HOA can be quite an expensive platform for a home. Or sometimes it can be a little bit irritating if you've got a very picky HOA who doesn't like half a dozen dandelions sitting out on the lawn. So just be aware of the HOAs. They're very good and in some cases can be a little frustrating, but you just need to know that the HOAs are there hopefully to make neighborhoods look better.
Just a quick comment about the goals and objectives, you know, and you don't need to go back to that slide, but for some of the newer agents here, just save yourself a lot of time running around on your weekend showing someone 12 properties because you did not discuss in depth, just precisely what it is that they need in a home, what it is that they really want to have in a home. And so, you know, instead of going through 12 properties, you know, if you've done your homework with your buyer, you will know exactly the type of home that they've just got to have, and that narrows it down to 2 or 3 that you get to see. Just save yourself a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And sometimes, you know, if you haven't got that decided from the outset, your client can become confused because they just see houses that are on the MLS or, you know, you're sending hot sheets and the houses look great, but then they forget that I've got to have, you know, so much room by the side to put my RV, or they forget that I've got an extra long truck that they've got to have a deeper, you know, garage store to fit that in, or they forget that they, you know, I've got to have so much space in the living area or the kitchen area because they do a lot of entertaining. But they're quite happy to go and look because, you know, they're in the business of looking, but, you know, you're a realtor and you've got to be careful you don't waste your time. So very good, Rami, for highlighting that. There we have it, homeowners association, organisation, subdivision, plan community or condominium building that makes and enforces rules for properties and its residents. And these monthly costs can be reasonable or they can be very high depending on where you are. Obviously, if you're in Daybreak, you're going to be paying a reasonable amount. If you're in Park City, you'll be paying more than a reasonable amount, maybe because of the area that you're in. Any other questions on homeowner associations, by the way, HOAs? Anybody like to add anything on the HOAs before we go to the I's? Okay, just make sure.
I was just going to add with qualifying, that's something important to let the lender know is if the property has an HOA, because that changes their debt to income ratio,
Yes.
because the HOA fee counts as a debt towards them rather than a portion of the mortgage payment. So typically, if a property has an HOA, your buyer is going to qualify for less than if it was the same price without an HOA.
Yeah, very good. Is it Dever? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Deveray.
Oh, Deveray. Okay. Cool. Oh, Deveray. Right. Very good. Thank you, Deveray. And that can be quite dramatic, particularly if you're in a high-end HOA. You know, some of these HOAs, not just several hundreds of dollars a month, sometimes they move into the thousands of dollars a month if you're in a very expensive area. So it can dramatically change the way in which that loan package is looking from the lender. So thanks for highlighting that.
Stephen, may I make a comment?
Thank you, please.
Stephen Preston. I think as we talk about HOAs, it's also interesting to point out that typically an HOA will reserve for future repairs or contingencies. And so when you're working with your buyers, it's important to at least explore that area and discuss any pending repairs or improvements that the project may be requiring in the near future, because you don't want to buy into a property and then immediately be faced with a large outgo for a major improvement that they had been planning for months or even years, and then you're just immediately buying into that.
Yeah, perfect. That's great advice. And as Stephen said, often, you know, if you've got a seller that can take care of these items before, your property is going to sell much easier because it will all be, you know, tidy with regards to any outstanding repairs that need doing. Very good. Let's move on to the I's. Of course, you know, here we have our inspection. Who'd like to talk to me about inspection? Stephen, why don't you stay with me and talk to me about how important inspection is and what it is. We've got brand new agents here that may not know.
Well, certainly it's very important to go through the house carefully, or the property, to determine the condition of the major elements of the home, the electrical, plumbing, all of these sorts of things, the roof, so that they have a clear idea of what problems, if they purchase the house or condominium, whatever it may be, what they may be facing in the future. And a good inspector can help identify what those issues might be, so that they can take adequate steps in the offer to address those issues and to allocate or share the responsibility with the seller, so that those can be addressed and you don't have issues after a closing where people are coming back and pointing fingers over a very big problem and everyone's unhappy.
Perfect. Yeah. And if you're representing the seller, make sure they understand that most likely the buyer will have an inspector come in to look at the home, obviously before the due diligence date, and, you know, help them understand that it's probably going to take, you know, 2 to 4 hours to do that, and they need to get out of the property during that time, because at the end of that inspection, they'll probably have the buyers join the inspector, will go through all of the issues with the home. But also help the seller to not be too worried, because basically the inspector is going to look at 3 different areas: safety, repairs, and maintenance. Help your seller understand that most likely the buyer is going to expect, and hopefully we are going to do it as the sellers, do all those safety items. We should do all the safety items. There'll be some repairs that we will do and some we may not, or there may be no repairs we'll do, and we may do them all. It depends what they are. But generally speaking, we're not taking care of any of the maintenance issues, and that's probably 80% or even more of the structure of the inspection. Most of it is to do with maintenance. But it's safety, repairs, and maintenance. That's really what an inspection covers. And every buyer has the right to inspect the home. Let's go to Jay. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, if I may add, not all inspectors are the same. I find that the inspectors that have the programs, what I mean is there's a digital program where the buyer can actually go to each item and actually respond to each item on the website.
Yeah, so, they can.
So that's a plus. So I look for home inspectors that offer that software.
I'm just trying to find who I'm speaking to. Who's calling me there? Who's speaking? I'm trying to find on this. Is it Mark? No, who's speaking then?
Yeah, did you get it?
Yeah, is that Mark? Okay, there. I just found you on.
Okay, did you hear what I said, or do you want me
to? Yes,
repeat?
Heard all that. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
So yes, yeah, perfect. And you know, a lot of these companies are very good at running these inspections. They do a good, thorough job. So very good. Let's go with the J's then. Joint ventures and joint sole agency. Anybody know what joint sole agency is? I'd like to comment on that one. Okay, I won't pick on you on that one. I'll give you a break. Joint venture, of course, is what it sounds like. It's a transaction between multiple parties that are coming together, basically to combine their resources and develop a real estate project. Joint sole agency is where two agents share commission, irrespective of who finds the buyer. So, you know, they have an agreement, and that's kind of how it works. So that's the joint sole agency. Let's go to the K's, kick-out clause. Anybody know what a kick-out clause is? In other states, they refer to it as a kick-out clause. In this state, we don't actually refer to it as a kick-out clause, but we do refer to it as something where they do kick you out the clause. And we know what it might be. Huh. Nobody, huh? Oh, who is that?
Angie.
Angie. Talk to me about it. Let me see if I can see you online. Okay, off you go.
It's a time clause, 72-hour time clause. So if they didn't sell their home within a certain amount of time and they get another offer, they can take their offer.
Absolutely right, Angie. Thank you for that. That's exactly what it is. We usually refer to it as a time clause, but it is really, they ultimately allows the seller to continue showing the home and to kick out the buyer if the seller finds a better offer. That's basically what it is. Obviously, we call that a time clause here in Utah. Keys to the home, make sure that your buyers understand they're not going to get the keys to the home until they own the home. Sometimes you'll come across a buyer, they're all excited, they go through settlement, and they're hoping that they're going to walk out with the keys to the home. Sometimes that will happen in construction, new construction that is, if they've got an agreement with the builder and their lender is with the builder. But often, you know, that is not going to be the case unless you've got a particular agreement with the seller. They're going to get the keys to the home when it funds and records. That's when they own the home. I'm always amused when I hear people, they put their house on the market and they have a open house, which is exciting. And they put the house on the market on the Friday, they have the open house on the Saturday, they get an offer in on the Saturday, which they accept. And Saturday night, they call their friends and say, we sold our house. We sold it in one day. And I'm thinking, no, you have not sold the house. You have got an offer, which is wonderful news, but you have not sold the house because you still own the house. And sometimes we have to just educate our clients to understand that they don't get the house until they own it, which means they've paid the money and they are now on title. So just make sure, understand how you move the keys along to the new owner. Any questions on the Ks? All right, let's go along then. We'll go to the L's, lender approval. Very important in this game that we can have a good lender that can work often tirelessly with our client to get them approved for the loan. When it finally gets through that final underwriting platform, and sometimes it can go to underwriting many times, when it finally comes out and they say, yeah, this loan is approved, there may still be some humps to jump through. What are some hoops that they might have to jump through, even though we've been through settlement and they've approved the funds? What could still go wrong? What could still go wrong, guys? Let's see what we got. who we not heard from today? I think we heard from everybody. Oh, Diane, have we heard from you today? How about Diane? Diane, do you want to unmute and say hi to everybody?
Hi. So,
hey, there we go.
So you're asking about some other hoops that go wrong after settlement?
Yeah, what could go wrong? So, you know, my client's gone through settlement, we're all excited, we signed all the papers, loan officer was there, yeah, all the money's approved, but what could still go wrong? Could anything go wrong?
Well, yes, I think if they've lost their job and it wasn't reported, that's happened to me once. Another thing could be that maybe they went out and had new credit, like they went out to get furniture and that wasn't reported if they're right on the border. So a couple of things can happen.
Perfect, yeah. And
cause a problem.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that, Dan. And certainly if it's a very tight loan, you know, if the monies are tight, the ratio to debt, etc., they most likely will do an employment verification. And, you know, those of you who are in the business a long time will have stories, and I have one or two as well, where I've seen us go right through settlement and then the thing fall apart because the person's lost their job, or because, you know, they've moved some money from somewhere else, or they have, you know, entered into another credit card arrangement, or the promised documents that underwriting asked for did not come, you know, after settlement. So, you know, the deal can still fall apart. So just be aware of that. Even though we're all happy that we get to settlement, sometimes things can go a little bit adrift. Any other thoughts or comments on lender approval?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that you know, the absolutely most critical moment for a transaction to either be a real viable one that will actually get to the finish line versus one that runs the risks of never getting there is a financing and appraisal deadline. So there's a term, a lot of lenders will just use the acronym CTC, clear to close, getting the clear to close from the underwriter by the financing and approval deadline. I have found that to be absolutely crucial. You know, a lot of agents will not get the clear to close from underwriting, blow past financing and appraisal deadline. And at that moment, they put their client's earnest money deposit at risk. Because if they're going to pull out, they have to pull out by the financing and appraisal deadline. Well, if there's no clear to close from underwriting, you know, we don't know what we're dealing with here. So as an agent, I literally sit on the lender the week of financing and appraisal from Monday, Tuesday. I mean, I'm on the phone with them every single day to make sure that my clients provided every document, everything that they need, so the underwriters can provide the clear to close by the financing and appraisal deadline.
Perfect, Remy. Thanks for sharing that. Very important. Good. Okay, let's just make sure. And as Remy said, you know, you've got to work very close with these lenders. Sometimes, you know, if the journey's a bit bumpy, they're going to ask for more time, and then you've got to run an addendum. Everybody's got to agree, you know, that you can push those dates out. So work closely with your lender so we can get that approval taken care of. Okay, let's look at the M's. Mortgage broker. So anybody know what a mortgage broker is? Angie, fire away. I just saw your hand go up. Just chime in. You don't need to put your hands up because I can't see everybody. But fire away, Angie. Yeah, thank you.
It's pretty much a lender that brokers out to several different companies and finds different types of loans.
Yeah, it's going to get you the best rates, basically. And that's what Angie basically said. It'll be working with, or she'll be working with lots of different other professional lenders that don't use their own funds to originate the mortgage, so they're brokering it out, but they will find a good deal. And often these mortgage brokers are kind of worth the weight in gold if they do a good job for you. Let's go to the ends. Of course, negotiation, which is our number one skill in this industry. You know, our opportunity here is we work with lots of different people, and we're trying to negotiate the best deal, the very best deal for our client. We're trying to get them top dollar. If they want to sell their house, we're trying to get them, you know, the best deal if we're helping them find a home. And don't undervalue your skills as a negotiator. As a realtor, you are best served to negotiate between your client, buyer, and the seller, and of course the seller's agent. Make sure you have a really good relationship with the other agent. That's really important in this business. Can I ask anybody if you want to share any story or thought on that? We've got some new agents here who've not sold real estate before. How important is it that they are able to comfortably work, not just with the people that are connected to their client on their side of the transaction, but with the other agent or, you know, the other party? We'd like to comment on that. Of course, it is important. I'm going to bring Angie back in, who's actually one of our brokers for Presidio. She's probably seen a few times when you've had one or two agents that have not been getting on with each other. Tell us, Angie, how important it is that we work so well and in concert with that other agent.
Well, for one, it gets the deal done. I found that when agents don't get along, the brokers end up having to get involved, and then yeah, it makes the buyer and the seller actually not want to get along and not work the deal either. So but I've been pretty lucky to most of mine have gotten along, so I haven't had that too often, only every once in a while.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Sometimes it can turn the buyer and the seller you know, against each other, or have some contention there. So if you're working with the other agent, whether you're the buyer or the listing agent, and you're working with the other, and it's difficult, please try and just persevere and be patient and do your best to work with that agent. It will be like gold for you as you go through the transaction. You know, sometimes we have agents that are working maybe part-time, they have other jobs, and sometimes they're difficult to get a hold of, and are not as responsive as a full-time realtor is, but just be patient with them and do your best to keep it smooth, because part of your negotiation skills is making sure your relationships are good with the other party. Can't highlight that enough. Let's look at the O's. Of course, we've got this. Yes, thank you.
Just briefly, if you are a new agent, it is easy to feel intimidated entering into a transaction with another agent on the other side. You know, they've been around for 35 years. You know, I mean, this is your first deal. You're brand new. I know that I felt those butterflies, and I felt, you know, scared, and I felt intimidated. Do not be. You are as equipped to serve your client as they are. You are licensed by the state of Utah to represent your client as their fiduciary in a real estate transaction as they are. You know, you've got your broker, you've got other, you know, really partners, other agents in your brokerage firm that can assist you. You know, just a feeling scared can really cause you not to answer their calls. You know, if they call you, then you kind of text back because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, great advice. And often the new agents have a mentor who can help them through this process. You know, in real estate, we have lots of agents from different circumstances. And as I said earlier, some, you know, are doing this part-time. They have a goal to move to full-time, but they may not be always available as those of us are full-time at it. So just be patient and work with them. Find out if you are working with an agent that's maybe not available for some of the time. Find out, you know, they say, oh yeah, I'm working this other job during these times, and then you're not disappointed if they don't respond. So just work the platform carefully and have good agent relationships. I believe that any difficulty in real estate can be overcome if you've got a good relationship with the other agent. You know, when two agents come together, they can usually make things work out. So let's look at this occupancy certificate, the OC. What's that? Anybody tell me what that is? Diane, do you want to chime in on that one? Have you come across the OC before? You want to tell everybody what that might be?
Yeah, usually in new construction where the city gives permission for them to go ahead and move in.
Perfect. And you're not going to get the home if they don't get that OC. Kind of looks like that basic. It'll have all the details on there. You have the builder's information on there, and you'll need that before you can move in. Objections, of course, in this industry.
Quick to that. So
yes, fine, thanks.
I know that we got a lot of new people on here too. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that if you don't have the certificate of occupancy, you need to use the new construction REPC. I know I got a couple contracts on a new build that I did not have the certificate of occupancy, and I got a regular REPC, and you can't use that on that one.
Right, yeah, very good. Thanks for highlighting that, Angie. And then obviously, you know, I'll put the note up there. Certificate of occupancy is a document issued by the local government agency or building department that certifies that the building is in compliance with current building codes and laws. And that is current building codes, because building codes are changing from year to year. So it's the building codes of the year of the build. If you've got any objections you're working with, and particularly those who joined this industry, you will have some objections that will come along. Deal them quickly and efficiently. Don't sit on problems. You know, if you don't know the answer, then quickly find someone to help you. Of course, you'll have your broker who's always ready to help, and often new agents will have a mentor. But overcome the objections quickly. That will help you have a smooth journey through the transition. Let's go to the P's. We've got the planning permits, obviously, in new construction. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we've also got property taxes. So let's talk about the planning and permits in new construction. If you've got a client who's working with a new builder, they're all agreed on the deal, they've got the plans, they've got the contracts in place, but nothing's started yet. We've just got the land, and the builder is waiting for permits. Could that be a challenge? Has anybody here worked in new construction where they've found a builder has not been able to commence work because he doesn't have a permit from the city? Okay. Well, that can happen, and it's out of the builder's control. Sometimes, you know, the city's obviously developing land. This is, and they've got to be able to be comfortable before they give a builder a permit. And we had a client a few years ago. Everything was good, and it was a very well-known builder's name, and they had everything was in place. They were ready to build, but the city waited and waited and delayed, and then this went on for nearly a year. And eventually, we had to pull out of that contract and go with another builder with another plot of land because the city was unable to give a permit for these new construction buildings to take place. Eventually, they were able to get everything tidied up, and it progressed, but it took me a couple of years to get that far. So just be aware, if you're working with new construction and they haven't got the permits, you've got to wait for them before that build can start. Property taxes, when do they take place? Who can tell me when property taxes take place? And who has to pay them?
Stephen?
Yes, thank you.
Property values are set each year as of January 1st. The values are set by the assessors typically sometime in late August or September, they mail the notices out, and the taxes are then payable typically in November.
Yeah, there it is, 13th November. Thanks, Stephen, for that good overview. Usually these will also take, they'll be revalued when a property is sold. So, and I have learned recently that some of these figures are getting closer and closer. One time you could often say the property value, or the property taxes were on a value less than we thought the property was worth. But I think those numbers are getting closer and closer together as far as I understand. And whether you've got a mortgage or not, guys, we're still going to be paying the property taxes. So, okay, let's go to the O's, or the Q's, we've done the O's. Questionnaire for buyers. So often realtors will have their own sort of questionnaire, whether it's a kind of a checklist, physical copy, or whether it's something they work out in their mind. But often they are asking questions from their buyer to find out, you know, how this journey of real estate selling or buying is going to pan out. And so here are some thoughts for you that might consider. If you are going to do a checklist, it's a good idea to be able to check off those items. I put here having a questionnaire for the buyer to do it, obviously advantage from the outset, knowing what the expectations and limitations are at the beginning can save a lot of time showing homes that will simply not work for them. And I think Rami highlighted this early on. Some things you may also ask when you're talking about, you know, questions, not only to do with the home looking at buying, but also ask, you know, do they have a preferred lender? They may need some help on that if you're looking, you know, to get a mortgage. Do they have a title company they want to use? Sometimes they have their own. And also, you know, do they have an inspection company that they are hoping to engage in that process? So think about those questions you may ask a potential buyer. Any other comments on the Q? Okay, let's go to R. REPSI, of course. I think we all know what that is. And then we've got rate the property after showing the clients. So making sure that we know what our clients definitely want. So there's a REPSI, real estate purchase contract. Just to let you know that it will be needed for every transaction to purchase real estate here in Utah. You have to use that form. And if you're working with, obviously, as a buyer's agent, you know, make sure that you can eliminate some of these properties early on. Often those who are working on the 1 to 10, they'll say a 7 will work out. It's not the best. An 8 will be great, 9 will be perfect, and 10, let's buy it. 6 and below probably will not work. So if you've got them rating, you know, below 6s or 6s below, then, you know, you just got to get rid of those houses, move on to the ones that are 7 or above. It can at least reduce your work on looking at houses that are not going to work for them. Let's go from the, I'll keep moving along here. Let's go to the S's, settlement with closing. There is a difference. When we've gone through settlement, mentioned before, we don't actually own the property until it closes. So just make sure your clients understand that. Here in Utah, closing typically takes place the day after settlement. Some states, they'll take place at the same time. Like if you're in Colorado, for instance, they always do settlement and closing in the same meeting. It's going to be like a table fund. It happens immediately. But make sure your clients understand that they're not going to own that property until it closes, until the funds are moved, and until the title has their name on it. Any questions or comments on settlement closing? All right, let's go to T's. We've got the title company. Of course, we've seen that room many times. We've got the title deed, and we've got the trustee. And what's the title deed? You'd like to tell me what a title deed is? How important is that? Okay, if I got, I've not spoken to, is it Laurie? Are you still with us, Laurie? How about you unmuting and saying hello to everybody? Is it Laurie? L-A-U-R-Y? Oh, she's not with us now. Let's see. I'm trying to engage everybody. No, I can't see it. Maybe you're gone.
No, she is here. I'm thinking she's can't unmute.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Yes. Yes. Hello, Laurie. How are you today? You are unmuted.
I'm fast, yes.
Perfect. How long have you been a realtor for?
16 years. Part-time.
Wow, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, you're great. Perfect. Well done. Talk to us about this title deed. What's a title deed?
It's a legal deed, and it's evidence or right of ownership of property.
Perfect. Perfect. So we've got those three. Stay with me, Laurie, while you've got your mic open there.
Okay.
Obviously, you've got the title. I think we all know what the title company is. You know, basically, they're going to manage the funds and the title registration, and they kind of bring all those bits together for us. As I just said, the title deed is evidence of the who owns the property, and then the trustee. Now, have you ever dealt with trustees before, Laurie? Have you ever dealt with any transaction as a trustee?
No.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add to that comment I've just put in? I was an individual company holding title to property. Anything we need to be aware of when we're working with trustees?
With what was
is there anything we need to be aware of when we're dealing with a trustee in a transaction?
Oh.
Any thoughts? Let me see if I can bring someone else in to help us. I think Tristan might be able to help us on that one. Tristan, can you chime in on that for us?
We're talking about a trustee?
Yeah, anything we just need to be aware of if we're dealing with a transaction with a trustee?
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen a lot of investment properties where the property is owned by a trust, and when they're selling, you need to be sure that they have signing authority for the trust, and they're the trustee. Sometimes it can be one individual. Sometimes I've seen it up to 4.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So thanks for that, Tristan. Okay, let's move on to the U. We've got the underwriter approved. We did talk about that earlier on, and also got the utilities. So they're pretty easy ones to understand. Obviously, the underwriters can determine whether or not this is a good deal for the company, the lender, to lend the money. And then, you know, if we've got those utilities, just be aware that if we're representing the seller, just make sure that we don't switch these off or terminate the accounts or shut the accounts down. Often, you know, we can just literally tell them that we are, you know, selling the house, keep the gas on, and, you know, the new owners will come in and they'll take over this account. Otherwise, the new owners will come in and they'll have to, you know, have the gas reconnected, and they'll probably charge them another, whatever it is, $35, $40, $50 to do that. So just be aware when you're working with utilities that we want to keep them open. We're basically just changing the owner of those accounts. Any questions on the use?
It's $100 to reconnect the gas.
Oh, it is now?
Yes.
$100, okay. The last time I had a client that did it, it was like 45 or 50. So yeah. Is that in Daybreak, Rami? Are you in Daybreak?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so maybe they've got some nicer gas going there. So there you are. So you really don't want to be switching that gas off. Thanks, Rami, for that. Valuation from appraisal, of course. We've talked a little bit about that. And when they get that valuation, it is a true value as indicated by that appraisal company or that appraiser. And basically, they are saying this is the market value of the home. And if it's less than what the lender is expecting, then that is going to change those figures and may pull that property out of the market for that buyer. So just be aware of that. W's, got a couple here, warranty. Who can tell me what a house warranty is for those who are brand new agents? I know you all know what a house warranty is, so let me see who we've not heard from for a while. Who's going to chime in for me? Liberty, you want to chime in on that one? She's a new agent, but she'll know what a warranty is, I think.
So you can, it's kind of like insurance, but it's like if something breaks, it pays for it.
Perfect. You're usually going to have a home warranty when you buy the home. Sometimes these are paid by the seller, sometimes by the buyer. Sometimes they're wanted and sometimes they're not. In this particular market, often the buyer will just pay for it. If it was a buyer's market, then the seller would want to pay for that. So that's kind of how that works. It's a few $100s, depending on the size of the home, might be $400 or $500 for that home warranty. And it will cover all those things that Liberty just mentioned. It's a good package to have because look after your HV and your plumbing and your furnace and your electrical systems, etc. Let's talk about the walkthrough. Of course, final walkthrough should take place just before settlement or 7 days before settlement is what the contract says. That a buyer has the right to do a final walkthrough of the property up to 7 days before settlement. So up to, it could be, you know, the day of settlement or the day before, but up to 7 days before. Just be aware that sometimes, and I've had it happen once, where the buyer is asked to do the walkthrough after settlement. Shouldn't really do it then, but that's really, I think, because the agents are not schooling right. So just make sure if you're working with a buyer, they understand they should do the walkthrough before settlement, up to 7 days before settlement. It can be a little bit awkward with the other party if they're trying to do it after settlement. Any questions on the W's? Let's go to the X's. There are no X's. I found this one though I thought was interesting. Who knows what a xistus is? Probably nobody. I even got Ramey's giving me a no. Never heard of that one before. I thought this would be a fun one just to add in. So have you ever seen these before? You do often see these in Europe. And I have seen one or two similar things over here. But basically it's a long open portico used especially by ancient Greek or Romans for athletic exercise in wintry or stormy weather. So if you see a little section that's covered, it's got some of those pillars, maybe it's got some greenery over it, you could say, ah, that's a xistus. And they'll think, goodness me, this realtor knows just about everything there is to know about buildings. Slightly a bit of fun there. Use yes questions for positive answers. And anybody know what a yield spread premium is? Anybody come across that before? It's a kind of an odd one. It's not often referred to, but I thought I'd share that one with you today. So when you're asking questions with you're walking through the home, it's always good to ask positive questions. That will give you a really good idea of what they do and don't like, you know, as you may hope. Working on positive energy and framework will enable your client to be much more positive on the experience, and you'll get more out of them. So here we are, your yield spread premium, a form of compensation that a mortgage broker receives for acting as an intermediary. If you use one of these guys, you must have it disclosed on the HOA form when the loan is closed. Okay, so basically, mortgage brokers receiving a compensation for acting as an intermediary, and if that's the case, you need to use that HOA form. Don't very often use those, but that's what it is. That's our second keyword coming up there. It's a little bit behind timing, so I'll toot along a bit quicker. So benefits will be the second keyword, B-E-N-E-F-I-T-S, benefits. We'll be shouting out on the screen. If for some reason you missed that first keyword, please don't ask on chat what it is, and reach out to Leslie Ann, and she will hopefully be able to assist you. The benefits is the first keyword. The first one also began with a letter B. Let's move on to the Z's as I call them, but Z's as we call them, the zoning ordinance, okay, and the zip code searches. So pretty important, both of these really. Zoning ordinance, of course, is a rule that defines how the property in a specific geographical zone can be used, whether it's acceptable for residential, commercial properties or purposes. Zoning ordinances can regulate lot size or the placement, density, and the height of structures. Zip codes. Over here, as you know, Utah starts with the 8-4, and then those next three identify where the property is. If you use the last digits, so those extra 4 digits that were added in 1983, they were actually added through the US mail, and what that allows them to sort the mail quicker. So if you're using all 9 digits, ultimately you will get the mail quicker. So just make sure you're using correct zip codes for your properties when you're putting them on there. Okay, I got to the end of the A to Z. Anybody got any questions on any of those before we move to the next part of this class? All right, so let's tootle in on learning how to capture buyers' leads and converting them to clients. I'm a little behind time, so we'll move along a bit quicker on this, I think. Remember that a buyer wants a home, usually doesn't want an agent, so we have to kind of make sure they are knowing our value in order that they want an agent to help them find a home. So we'll put that in there in the mix there. Listen and respond to buyer signals. So let's ask the question, what are some of the buyer signals? So you're taking a buyer out and you're looking at some homes. What are some signals that would tell you, oh yes, this buyer is interested in this home? Who can tell it? This is where you unmute.
What about their facial expressions?
Ah, very good, yeah. Talk to me more about that, Laurie. What else might a buyer do in a home when you're walking? What else might they say?
Well, they'll say, ooh, our piano will look good here. Or I could see furniture here. They start moving themselves.
Perfect. Yeah, they start kind of virtually moving themselves into the property, don't they? And that can give you a lot of interesting information as you start to work with that buyer, because you'll go to the next home and you know, if the room isn't big enough to put their grand piano in, you can say this isn't going to work if you're still thinking of bringing that, you know, grand piano in, as you mentioned in the last home. So here's some thoughts you might consider, and Laurie started to help us on those. So nodding heads, obviously responding yes to your questions, repeating benefits that you may have highlighted, because as you go through a home, you may say, this has got this, or this has got that. And when they start to repeat those benefits, you'll know that they are quite interested. If they start talking about the price, you know, do you think they might, you know, accept a little bit less on this? Or do you think, you know, we could ask them to help us for, I don't know, some concessions on whatever? Then that's another big indication that they want the property. Obviously, in this particular industry, they're probably not going to get it less than for what it's marketed at if it's been marketed correctly. If they're interested in timelines, they may say something like, hey, do you think they'd be able to, you know, move a bit quicker on this, because we're a cash buyer and we'd like to move in within the next, you know, 10 days or whatever. So timelines are important. Asking serious questions to you about real estate. So there are some of the thoughts there. Any other thoughts that we might share about when we're looking at examples of interested buyers?
Can you just put that last slide up just for one more second, Stephen, please?
Thank you, Rami. Loading it in now. I think we are there. I think was there another one in there? There we are. Very good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else to add there, Rami? I mean, I know when you know, you've done a lot of clients as the buyer's agent. What are some of the things that have helped you when you're watching a couple or a family or a single person going into a home and highlighting areas that would share their great interest in that home?
Sure. Or disinterest immediately, just right off the bat. I just closed on a 2-story home that had, you know, really long stairs. I mean, this thing felt like you were walking up the Empire State Building in this home. I mean, just really tall home, tall ceilings. You know, anyway, a number of buyers that came through to see this home during open houses and even showings, even private showings. You could tell that they were struggling to get up the stairs. And I mean, just their body language said, uh-oh, this is just not going to work for me. You know, so a number of buyers just walked through the front door and then and then just looked around, looked at the stairs, and just turned right back out and left because, you know, at their age, they just couldn't do it. So if they're not seeing all of the home, they're not interested.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, sometimes, and you probably had it, Ray, I've definitely had it, where you've met a buyer at the property and they're going, no, this is not going to work. And they don't even want to walk in the property. I do encourage them to walk in the property because I think, you know, the seller has prepared this home for us to look at it. Just to walk in and look at some of the decor and get an idea of what's going on. I will always walk the property because I think that's courteous, so that I can at least give some feedback to the listing agent. But yeah, it doesn't very often happen, but sometimes you will get a client that is just switched off by something, and it may be something, you know, not even connected to the property. It may be the neighbor that's got, I don't know, a rough looking yard or tree or something on it. So very good. But listen and respond to buyers' signals. I think the key thing is listen. We don't want to be an agent that's just continually talking when we're showing a home. Let's let them, you know, have the steering wheel. Let's let them drive us through that home and respond to their questions and thoughts. Any other questions or thoughts on that slide? Okay, let's go into this little section here. Anybody here done home warming parties for past clients, where they're, you know, trying to develop a past client to find some more business, some more leads, some more contacts? Anybody done those? Anybody know of realtors that have done those? So some realtors will have a party or a gathering at their home for past clients, and often that can generate some interest. It's a reminder of what, you know, you do for a living, and often you can get referrals from having these warming parties for past clients. So that's that one there. Let's go to this next one. This is quite important. Let's just spend a few minutes on this. We have got some experienced realtors here. We've got some brand new agents who will be interested in having some thoughts on this. When we are building our marketing strategy to find our first few clients, often we can be very focused on marketing and sometimes can miss out the importance of focusing on our personal social engagement with those contacts. Anybody like to share a thought or a comment on this topic as to how we can help brand new agents capture, you know, their first line of clients in this industry? They're all gone silent on me.
You could possibly send them a, hooray, you've been in your home for a year. You know, just a reminder, I hope you still like your home. Do you have any questions?
Very good, Laurie. Stay with me, Laurie. What about if you're a brand new agent and you're trying to find something, you've got no past clients, okay, and you're trying to engage with your SOI, you know, to find some business. How important is it, and how might there be some ways of personally connecting to these people to help them understand what you do? How would you do that? Bearing in mind, we've got lots of options these days because we've got the social media platform, which is huge, as well as, you know, personal contact.
Well, that's what I was going to mention in Facebook. You could advertise yourself on Facebook as buyer's agent, listing agent. Do you want to buy a house? You have a house to sell. I'm in the area. It's a great time to buy, or it's Facebook advertisement. You can talk to family and friends and say, look, I just got my license. Do you know of anybody that wants to buy a house? Or are you personally looking to sell your house? Hey, did you know that the market's going this way? And kind of strike up conversation with whomever. You could do it at a gas station. Just being friendly in the store. and they just kind of open up to you and say, man, we've been looking for a house, or I'm in a rental. And, you know, if you're working with a really good lender, you could say, hey, you know, I'm working with this great lender. They could possibly help you get into a home instead of renting. Just everyday conversation.
Yeah. Laura, you brought out lots of key areas there. Be directive, ask the questions, ask them who they know, because often, you know, there are other people in neighborhoods, in the same neighborhood they're living, that they may be aware that they're thinking of move. Their house may not be on the market yet. They may be just thinking about it, or they may be working with a lender, or they may be thinking about getting their house tidied up and decorated and ready for sale. So asking those good direct questions is a good way to find new contacts.
I got a good funny one for everybody. For brand new agents, I guess this would be a good one, but your name tags, if you wear it upside down.
Oh, really?
And then you go to the grocery store and stuff, people always comment on it. Say, hey, your name tag's upside down. Then you know that they noticed it.
That's right.
And then you thanks, and then you fix it, and then you start talking about real estate. Anyway.
That's a great one.
Ask them what they're having tonight for dinner or something. But it worked a couple of times for some of my agents.
Okay, so we see a lot of agents with their name tags upside down. We don't know what they're doing.
You know, I'll know where you guys all got it from.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's a great idea. Any other thoughts? Any other sort of out of the box ideas to share when we're trying to communicate with people on a personal nature like that? That's a great idea, Angie. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else got one to share?
I will share something.
Thank you.
Since I've been in the business for 30 years, I have been actively involved in community service in my farm area. Always had a farm area and done a lot of activities. One of my most successful is an annual garage sale. I do that as a social or as a community service, and everyone knows that I'm a realtor. I have people that are following, knowing that I do a yard sale every year. And they'll come, and of course they'll ask questions about real estate. And then during the yard sale, I make it a point to go around and visit with all the families that are participating. I usually have about 30 to 35 families that participate in the neighborhood, and they do it in their own yard. And I make that point to go out and visit with them, talk to them about real estate, and so that they know that I have a presence in the neighborhood.
Yeah. That's a great idea, Janet. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, having a presence in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yep.
Was that someone else who chimed in or not? Did I miss anybody?
So I appreciate Janet's comments, because one of the big mistakes that I made starting off as an agent in our industry, which is a marvelous industry, by the way, we provide a service that is quite extraordinary, you know, assisting folks with the biggest transaction possibly of their lives, is not telling people that I'm an agent, being shy about everyone knowing that I'm in real estate. This is what I do, and I'm available to you. You know, just the best advice that I got was from one of my prior brokers. You know, he said, you should be a walking billboard for real estate. You should be a walking billboard for real estate. You know, everywhere you go, folks should just see real estate written all over you. And that was powerful advice. It was important advice. And of course, if you translate that into the real world, well, then that means on your social media platforms, Instagram, you know, Facebook, I mean, everywhere you've got friends and family, they should know that you are in real estate.
Yeah, that's great, ladies. Remy, thanks. Let me ask, see Samantha and Liberty, I know are brand new in this industry. Have you got any questions you'd like to fire out to some of our seasoned agents here on this topic? Because I know that at this time you're probably looking at building your SEO list and SOI list and trying to find out ways to contact them. You got any questions you'd like to fire out? Either one of you? I'm not sure who else I've got who's brand new on this. I know I've got Samantha brand new, and I've got Liberty brand new. Anybody else who's brand new here would like to fire any questions out to seasoned agents?
I would.
Fire away.
How much do you guys go with like social media and people you know, as opposed to like complete strangers, like trying to contact complete strangers?
That's a great question. So what sort of balance are you working with, you know, people that you know or people you don't know? Anybody like to take that question and answer it?
I've been in the business about 3 years, and for me, it's been about 90-10. 90% people I know or people they've sent me, and 10% is people I didn't know that came to me from an event or from marketing that I didn't have a personal relationship with.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Deborah. Anybody else like to share a comment? Tristan?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, nothing really beats the FaceTime with potential clients, right? So don't spend too long trying to come up with the most interesting memes on Canva or on Facebook. Get out from behind the screen, go door knocking, or, you know, invite 5 of your closest friends to lunch, you know, and just talk to them about what you're doing and see how they're doing in their lives. And they might know somebody who's looking to buy or sell that they would talk to you about.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Tristan. Anybody else got any comments to share that might be helpful to Liberty or Samantha or anybody else that's on this class that's brand new? We've just been talking about that one. You know, we do live in a modern world where you connect to lots of people very quickly and very often with this online social media that we do have. Figure out the ones that you're good with, that you work well. We talked about FaceTime, but there are other social media platforms. If you've got skills in a certain area, then use your skills, because people will buy your skills because you know, you're good at them. Anybody got any other thoughts to add to what we've already said? Okay, I'm going to just pull this screen out and come in again. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah, I just put a note on this one that viral technology tends to move fast, and the most believable people will start looking at you on screen. Hopefully they can look as excited as these two individuals do. But when people see something that they like, and it may not be about real estate, it may be about something else, but it's coming from you and you've got your information as a realtor, and it creates interest or fun or happiness or attraction, then often they'll share it with other people. So just remember that, you know, when something goes viral, it will hit a lot more contacts. Anybody have any experience where they've used viral technology to increase their current platform of contacts? Okay. A few here, we'll just go through. Consider both demographic farming as well as geographical farming. Anybody like to tell me the difference between those two? What's demographic farming? Who can tell me what that is? Okay, I know you know what demographic farming is, so I'll have to squeeze it out of you, won't I, folks? I heard from Remy and Tristan, they know what it is. They're just sort of giving you a little bit of a break here. Let's have Michelle. Michelle, do you want to tell us what this is? Do you know what the difference between these two are? Let's invite Michelle to chat with us.
Well, I think geographical farming would be a certain zip code, perhaps. Yeah. And demographic maybe finding income, a certain income. You know, I think you have to be careful on that with fair housing as well. But
good. So yeah,
you're looking for a feature of a potential buyers.
Good. yeah, so geographical, if you're going to use geographical farming and take all these houses, and there may be a mishmash of houses, different types of people. So you're going to send something out there that's going to be general. That they're all, it's going to be general. It's not going to be like a focused, targeted piece of marketing for a certain type of person. It's going to be a general, and that'll work fine as long as you keep working that farm. If you're going to do for a demographic, you may think, I'm just going to work for people that are in, I don't know, maybe rented accommodation, because I'm thinking that sooner or later they may want to buy a home. Or maybe I'm going to just work with those that are in the military or been in the military, because maybe they're going to be interested in, you know, VA loans, and that's what I'm focusing on. Or maybe I'm looking at, you know, folk that are in the other end of the empty nesters market. I'm going to be sending, you know, marketing that's going to be attractive to them. So it may not be every home you see, it may be the ones you're picking out for a certain feature, as Michelle just shared. So think about your type of farming, and, you know, do it on a regular basis, and you should be able to get some return on that. Oh yes, let's do this one. The shotgun or the rifle. Yeah, that's right. Let's just pull that in there. So I always call it shotgun or rifle. You know, the shotgun is the geographical farming, which is we're just going to send out this general information. Hopefully someone will pick it up and be ready to go. Rifle is more targeted. And so on this slide here, those of you got guns, I don't have a gun because I'm from England. We don't do guns. But some of you over here have got some guns. That's a shotgun, hopefully. And this market, this marketing strategy would be using multiple general promotions across large different platforms of contacting. Does someone want to chime in there? Did I have someone on mute? No? Okay. So there's your shotgun and here's your rifle. Okay. It's a whole different ball game. Focusing on specific areas of customers, this strategy often includes acquiring mailing lists for a desired group of people delivered at a specific time. You can often sometimes get these lists from title companies as well if you, you know, got a good relationship with your title company. Just be careful if you are buying lists that are up-to-date lists and that you're following all of the rules for marketing to those lists. Any comments or thoughts on that slide? When we're trying to market our business to those around us. Anybody got any experiences or success stories where they've done some geographical or demographic farming and have seen success, and how they've seen the success? I'm not sure. Janet, are you talking? I'm not sure if you're unmuted. Did I see you trying to unmute? Let me just see if Janet wanted to talk to us there. Oh, not sure. Okay. Anybody have any experience of sending postcards out, or door hangers, or other types of mailing platforms that they've got involved in? No, nobody sent out any of those. Well, I've done those. I can tell you that if you're working on the general sort of, you know, geographical marketing, you need to be consistent. So take a few hundred houses, maybe you might take 200 or 300 houses in your local area, and you'll send something out every maybe 3 months or so. It might just be a door hanger that you'll put on the door there, which maybe if you're working with a loan company, they may pay for the print for you. So all you got to do is put them out. They'll have one side, you'll have the other side. But if you do that on a regular basis, people will get to know who you are. And then maybe the next time you send, or you have delivered a postcard, you can slip in the side of the door. It may talk about, you know, a house that you sold in that area. That can have good impact. If you're working on the more rifle platform, which is the demographic marketing, again, make sure you are giving them information they're going to be interested in. So, for instance, if you're working with a rented people that are a rented group of people that are currently renting homes, you've got to talk about what is available. You know, that you've got, there are good rates at the moment. There are loan companies that will specialize in FHA loans where they only have to put down 3.5%. So work on marketing platforms that become attractive to that group of people that you're sending information to.
Stephen?
Yes, thank you.
Stephen Preston, if I may make a comment. Our primary business has been doing real estate property tax appeals for a number of years. And each summer, we would research the county property records, and we would send out typically 1,500 to 2,000 letters to selected property owners, generally major property owners that had large commercial properties, and showing examples of our prior work. And we found that the mailings were, to our delight, were generally successful, and we found new clients and found a fair amount of business from those mailings each year.
So how many mailings did you send out, Stephen? Just give us an idea of some of the numbers.
Well, we would send out a mailing of maybe 1,500 to 2,000, and maybe follow it up with a second mailing about 3 or 4 weeks later of a similar size.
Okay.
And we do that annually.
You do it annually, okay. And then roughly, what sort of response percentage-wise do you think you would probably get?
Depending on the year, somewhere between 10 to 15%.
That's really good return, actually. 10
it
to 15%,
is.
Very good return, yeah. Yeah, very good. Did you find that the topic or what the material was talking about made a difference or not?
It did, and the thing was, it was scheduled to go out right after the tax notices were mailed. So it was something that was on the mind of the property owner. They just received their notice, they opened it up, and probably were thinking, oh my, this is what I'm going to have to pay in property taxes. And then our letter was hopefully timed to arrive the next day or within a couple of days, offering perhaps a solution to their dilemma.
Yeah, that was my next question, is timing. Timing is usually everything on this.
It is.
Particularly in your case, you're only doing it once a year, and you're targeting that time frame the same each year. Of course, if you were doing something on every 3 months or so, you'd be working on a different attraction for that package, whereas this was based on the tax, which obviously was more attractive at the end of the year. Did you find that you had any contacts that approached you that led you to other contacts from that marketing?
Yes, there were definitely some referrals where they would say, by the way, I have a friend or an associate that you may want to contact as well. There weren't large numbers, but it did happen.
Yeah, good. And how many years have you done that for?
Well, I hate to age myself, but going back into the mid-1980s.
Okay. So what we learned there from Stephen is that something works, and he's kept with it. It's obviously a good platform. So, and that works for him. And it may not work for you, but you've got to find what does work for you. You've got to find your little niche market. You think, yeah, this works for me. And you just keep doing it. And it may not necessarily just be one thing that works. It usually is a multiple sided approach. Is that what you found, Stephen? Sometimes you have to change things as markets change and the world change and people change. You've got to, be able to be flexible to change to what they may find attractive.
You raise a very good point. You definitely have to change with the marketplace.
Yeah. Very good. Any questions at all for Stephen, or anybody else got any other examples they'd like to share where they've got involved in some, focused sort of rifle marketing or shotgun marketing? Anybody got any questions on anything we talked about as we wrap this little lesson up here? Okay, we'll just chime in. We covered that. I think that might have been Janet who may have spoke about that. It was definitely someone that talked about being involved in community organisations, schools and clubs. Definitely can be a way of networking. And of course, great platforms, finding people that you would not know otherwise by, finding the friends of people you're connecting with. what you're trying to do is to build a network of people that you can engage and help with, but definitely getting involved in local things that are going on a regular basis can be most helpful. Anybody got any examples where they've been involved in maybe a school or a club that they'd like to share? And it may be simple things like just going to the, I don't know, taking the youngster to the soccer match every Saturday morning, and you start to network that little group of people that are there every week, you see, because you're there every week while the lads and the lasses are playing the game, you're having a chat with the people, and you can find a lot of information and you can network new contacts that way that you would not have done otherwise. Any comments or thoughts on that slide? Okay. It's another one you may consider. When you have success, share it. People, they love free advice. They do like to be appreciated. So, you know, if you've been able to sell someone's house or help someone buy a home or be involved in some sort of transaction, you know, obviously, you know, you work with your client and make sure they're comfortable, but sharing successes with other people often leads to more success. And particularly if you're giving free advice on social media, that can also give you some credibility, and people often will then raise questions. Other people are watching, and you'd be surprised how many are listening to what you are actually sharing. Any comments or thoughts on that slide? Okay, I always think people like to have a thank you. So when you work with someone with a transaction, which can be anything from a month to even past a year, and in some cases longer, make sure you spend time to thank them for the opportunity you had to work and serve and help them in this process. People do like to be appreciated, and they will share with others their good experience with you. Put a few thoughts in here you might just consider. I know often when we first get involved in this industry, we're very keen to let people know what we're doing, but let's make sure we're a friend first, and we're there to help them, we're there to assist them, and we want to make sure they understand that we are going to be a reliable source of real estate information. They can come to us and get the best advice in this industry. Any comments on that slide? I'm just going to pull out of that one. I think that got stuck, that one did. Let's see. Let's put a note there. Just be careful, particularly if you've got no business on or you're just starting in this industry. Just be careful that you don't oversell. Sometimes that can put people off, and we have to be careful that we're not overselling our services. Anybody got any comments on that at all? Where they've seen a realtor or a salesperson, may just be a salesperson, that has oversold something and it kind of turns them a little bit off interest. In a store? No? Okay. Sometimes people may find that with used car salesmen. Not that all are like that, certainly not, but there may be some that are overselling. So be careful you don't oversell yourself. Let's pull up that third keyword now and see what that's going to be. Oh, it's not coming up yet. Ah, it's coming up after this slide. So have the ability to change. If something's not working, don't keep doing it because it isn't working for you. Even though it works for someone else, you may try what Stephen's done and it doesn't work for you. And that's okay. It's something that's not quite tweaked right. Don't keep working on something if it's not working for you. Just have the ability to try a different approach or tweak it, or, you know, sometimes it is time to change. Find out what type of person your contact is and then try and mirror their image. That keyword should come up soon. I'm not sure why it's not come up. Maybe I messed up on this slide. Let's just see what we got there. Oh yeah, let's pull this one. This is a good one. Horses for courses. That's something we say in England a lot. you know, and look at these horses. You're not going to use any other horse than a flat racing horse if it's going to be just, you know, turning down the track there. But that flat racing horse will be of no use to you if you want to use it in a show jumping competition. They're different types of animals. Even though they're all horses, they're trained differently. Of course, if you're doing barrel racing, your show jumping horse and your flat racing horse is not going to cut it. It has to have a different set of skills. But these are still all horses. You've got your harness racing. These guys all work together, you know, putting that little chariot there. But none of these horses can work in a different group. So when you're working with your clients, just make sure you understand what type of person you're working with so that you can best assist them and give them the help that they need as you navigate them through this process. And it's the same when you're marketing to people. Figure out how you can market to people that's comfortable for them to receive. Some of you have definitely been on this DIS personality skills class that we have run on this Raising the Bar series. If you haven't been on this, I suggest you take it. It's a really good idea to learn the skills that you can gain from understanding people's personalities. And of course, you've got those 4 different squares there: your dominance, your interacting, your steadiness, and your consciousness, which are basically the main character platforms that people fall within. And even though we all have a bit of this in our personality, one may be more dominant than another. So see if you can lock in to this class if you're not taking it before. If you have taken the class, it's a great thing to do when you work with new clients, particularly those you don't know, is to figure out what personality they are so that you can mirror their personality. Any comments on that slide? Okay. All right. I don't know where that word's gone. It will come up in a minute though. So just make sure you balance your time with follow-up and lead generation. So even though it's good to do lead generation, you have got to follow up on them in order for them to materialize into new clients. You can't just keep doing lead generation. You've got to be able to follow up with them in order for some of those to materialize. So get that balance right. Oh, there it is. It must have been a repeat earlier on. So here's that 3rd keyword, which will be balance. And while you're looking at that keyword, anybody tell me how important it is to balance your time when you're finding new clients with everything else you do? You've got to keep it coming, otherwise you'll run out of new leads. Anybody like to comment on that? That's the 3rd keyword, B-A-L-A-N-C. If you've not got one of the other keywords, they all begin with a B today, please talk to Leslie and please do not share on the chat. Okay. So we looked at the buyers from A to Z. That was kind of a glossary. Hopefully that was a reminder for some of us and maybe some new information for some others who just joined this industry. And we talked a little bit about how to capture buyers' leads and convert them to clients, just in that little last section there. Anybody got anything they'd like to add or share as we close this class up? You've all been great. Thanks for your participation today. And hopefully we can have a good week this week and we can bring in some new business. Leslie Ann will come on in a moment and share that form with you